Hi everyone, welcome to Papo Embalado, the videocast brought to you by Valgroup. I'm Carlos Santos, and today we are diving into a hot topic, plastic ban policies. We are joined by Dr. Chris DeArmitt, scientist and the author of the book The Plastics Paradox, and Eduardo Berkovitz, Director of Institutional Relations at Valgroup. Let's get started. So, Chris and Berkovitz, thank you to join us again. And now we are talking about ban policies. I'd like to start to you, Chris. Plastic ban policies are often presented as a solution to environmental issues. But what is the real impact on the environment?
Right. Well, the way to know that is life cycle analysis we've talked about. So everything has alternatives, and the answer is the ban going to make things better or worse, right? That's what we should check before we make a policy. In the case of bags, definitely makes things worse. And after a ban has happened, they went and analyzed what happened. Was it better or worse? And the answer is exactly as predicted by the life cycle studies. You end up making things much worse when you ban plastic bags. If you ban plastic straws, people then use paper straws, they use glass straws, and they use metal straws. And all of those are much worse for the environment than plastic. And you and I are old enough to remember how useless paper straws are. That's why we didn't use them anymore, because they don't work. You can't drink out of them. So whereas a plastic straw does work, it's less harmful to the environment, and you can reuse it again and again if you want to. And this is a point, because single use is a choice that we make. We don't have to throw away a straw after one use. We could reuse it 5 times, 10 times, or 50 times if we wanted to.
And plastic bans can have a significant impact on the economy. And how do they affect industries that are heavily reliant on plastic products?
I don't know the answer to that. So I'm a scientist, and when I know the answer, I will tell you. And when I haven't read a study, then I will just say, and that's what professional scientists do. It's part of the code of ethics of being a scientist. If you're being honest, then you should say, this is my expert area, I have the answer, or say also when you haven't read a study. So on that one, I don't know the answer.
You mentioned in your book that some plastic bans have caused more harm than good.
Yes.
And can you share examples of these unintended consequences?
Sure. So the plastic bags we have in the grocery store right now are very thin. The ones in America, you can see through it. It's so thin. And then you use that once, and then you take it home and you put it in your trash can and you use it again. That's normal. When you ban the plastic grocery bag, now you cannot use it as a trash bin anymore. So you go and buy a trash liner, and those bags are 5 times thicker. That means you're buying 5 times more plastic. So you ban the plastic to save plastic, and you end up selling much, much more plastic because those bags are thicker than the one you replace. So this is an unintended consequence. It's something that's obvious. It was certain to happen, but nobody thought through the consequences of the policy before they did it. So sometimes people say to me, hey, you're a plastics guy. Of course you're against bag bans. You want to sell more plastic. I'm like, no. If I wanted to sell more plastic, I would encourage bag bans, because that's how you sell more plastic. You sell a much thicker bag that way.
All right. Berkovitz, how do restrictive, I'm tired. How do restrictive plastic policies in Brazil compare to those in other countries, and what lessons can be applied to improve local regulations? And what are the economic consequences as well?
Okay. Well, I think countries treat the situation of plastic in different ways. Okay, in Brazil for sure we have our specific situation, in Europe another, in US probably another. But I think, and for sure, some of them are more hard in the treatment, and some of them are more soft, depend of the population, the economic situation, etc. But about the ban, I think that's the one point that I would like to talk a little bit more. I remember in 2017 or 18, the word to ban was very hard in talking to NGOs in Brazil. A lot to talk about ban. And we decided to, hey, okay, we call in Brazil, Rede pela Circularidade dos Plásticos, is a net for plastic circularity group, then we say, okay, the first thing we have to do is, okay, let's move this idea of ban to arrange another way, and let's treat this as a recycling philosophy, as recycling policy instead of ban. Because why we need to say you can live or you can die? You can ban this, you cannot ban this. This is not fair. There's no make sense, because each of plastic, they have a reason to be with us. Different plastic, different polymers, etc. And then we change this, try to change, and they have a strong movement. And I can tell you that between 4 or 5 years, we can move to, okay, let's stop to say ban, and let's go to, okay, let's improve the recycling situation. That's one point that I would like to point to you. Another point, that's the social situation for Brazil. Ban, because we have the waste pickers. It's a typical situation for our country. We have close to 1 million guys in the streets picking waste, and not plastics only, but a lot of material. This is important. This is a social situation that we have in our country. And we need to work that they made a very important efforts to the plastic chain, because we need raw material. How to recycle without material? Right. There is no way. We need to have raw material. That's the base of the philosophy of the recycling, to close the economy, circular economy. And then what happens is, okay, not only the plastics converter, but the plastic converters, the companies like Coke, others, we decide to have a sense of to help these guys to have a better management of this business, to improve their quality of life of the speakers. This is a very important point in our country, in Brazil, specifically our country. Others have the same, probably yes. Others have less, but depending. But look into Brazil, that's the scenario. And when you talk about economics, that's one point, very important point about plastics. Only to give you numbers, to give you an example. For example, in Brazil, we consume close to 6.5 to 7 million tons per year of all plastics. Okay, this let's say 7 million tons per year. We have converters, and the revenues of these converters is about $25 billion per year. It's a very representative economics in our country. Okay, we have close to 12,000 companies, small ones to big one and medium one. Okay, that's a huge number of companies, and we have closer to 400,000 people working this business. I think with this number, I would like to show is it's an important issue, an important issue of this society of Brazil. Plastics is part of our society, is part of our life.
And very important for economic.
For sure.
So imagine you ban a bag, you drive all of these companies out of business, you take away the income from the pickers, and then 2 years later the politician realizes, oh, I made a mistake. I want to reverse the ban. But where's the company? Where are the people? They're all gone. They're unemployed, you see. So these are not decisions you should make without thinking first. Another thing I want to say is the public thinks that soft bags are bad, they can't be recycled, and it's not true. There's a company in Germany called Papo Embalado, and they recycle 110,000 tons of polyethylene bags per year profitably, and they have been doing that for years. It's called EcoLoop. You can look it up online. So it is possible. The only thing that's tricky about soft bags is that they get tangled in some of the machines. So it doesn't mean that they're impossible to recycle. You just need to redesign the machine, and then it's easy.
Yeah, right. And Chris, what are the most common misconceptions about the effectiveness of plastic bans in addressing environmental issues?
The biggest thing to know about plastic is it's less than 1% of everything. So this idea that we can solve any problem by changing anything with plastic is nonsense. Every word, every policy, everything we do with plastic is a complete distraction from helping the environment, because it's only 1% of our problem. And we're talking about plastics all day long. The only way to really help the environment is to fly less, drive less, eat less meat, and focus on iron and steel and concrete, because those are the biggest things which are affecting the environment, much, much bigger than plastic will ever be. So that's what we're doing. We're focusing on the wrong stuff.
All right. And policymakers often face a balancing act between environmental goals and economic realities. How can they make more informed decisions when considering plastic bans?
At the moment, they listen to NGOs and they assume that these environmental groups have the right information and that they're acting honestly. But they have to stop assuming that, because, as I said, even the president of Greenpeace left and said they're just telling stories for money, right? So we have to stop letting these green groups, who are not really green, they're just fake, get in front of our politicians and influence policy. We have to make sure that when the policymakers are making these policies, they've listened to scientists, people who have independent information, not people who are just trying to fill their pockets based on nonsense.
How do you see this scenario in Brazil, Berkovitz?
I think in Brazil, of course, it's a challenge for us as a big country. This size, with the situation of these people, is a big challenge in my perception. But I think the key issue, and again, as you said, when we see politicians, NGOs, media, etc., we have to split what is science and what is the emotion to discuss the scenario. Okay, I think this is very important. We have to look at the science, say what the science is saying to me. LCA studies, objectives, numbers, etc. Okay, with these numbers, with the science and scientists like you, we can have much more policies to introduce. But when we bring the emotion to the debate, I think we have lost a big opportunity for the future, the company. And then I think the balance between the politicians, the society, and the industry, that's the key issue. How to balance of these three guys, and for sure the country, to solve this situation of plastics. We cannot be make a movement because A or B are doing this. No, we need to discuss our reality of the country. Okay, but 2 points that I think is very important for Brazil at this time. One is being discussing here is the reverse of logistics, plastics. We need to solve this. We are now in a situation that probably we have something by law, okay, in the reverse logistics, because it's very important. Again, to recycle, we have to have material. We have to recycle material. And the second point I think is very important is we are discussing strongly is why not to have an obligation of the percentage of recycling in the material by law. Again, you can start slow and you can increase along the time, but to improve the recycling, to make a movement with the plastics, we are now in a big discussion. Why not we now have to this obligation of recycling in virgin material, in the packaging as a general rule? I think, look in this scenario, I think Brazil can go, and for sure other countries are finding this way, that way. In Brazil, you'll find your way.
At the moment, I mean, politicians, are they interested in the economy or in the truth? I don't know. They're interested in votes more than anything else.
Yes.
And this is the problem, right? If you lie to the people, they demand paper, which is worse for the environment, costs them more money. So the supermarkets give them paper, even though they know it's wrong. And the politicians, of course, will do whatever they want to get the vote. So this is the problem. If we lie to the people, they demand things from the politicians that make no sense, and they demand things from the supermarket that make no sense. And this is why, as a scientist, I don't care if you want paper or metal or glass, but I want you to have true information to make your decision. If you think that a glass bottle feels fantastic, I would agree with you. I think it feels better in my hand than a paper bottle. I think it feels better than a paper bottle or a plastic bottle. But we should be making our decisions based on things that are true, not based on things which are imaginary or have an agenda. And then we can make progress.
Are there any examples of successful environmental policies that reduced harm without resorting to plastic bans? Do you remember anything?
I think what you were saying, if you mandate 10% recycled content, for example, then you use less virgin resin, you have the same quality you started with. You can also do other things. You can have deposit systems where you get Another misconception of the customer is they think that recycling is going to save the litter problem. Recycling and litter are completely unrelated. The reason that people will give this bottle back is if it has a value. If it has a deposit on it, Norway gets back 97% of these, Germany gets back 98%, Brazil gets back a large amount because it has a value. So that's another example of a policy that really does lead to improvement, to make sure that this has a value so nobody wants to drop it on the floor.
Okay. And Chris, how can the plastic industry collaborate more effectively with governments to create balanced and sustainable solutions?
They need to do a better job because the plastic companies have been relying on the trade associations who have mainly been totally useless. They haven't done their job. And so I think the plastic companies have to start doing it directly. The bigger ones have to maybe get together, make sure they get in front of the politicians and show them the fact instead of hoping somebody else does it. Because they've been waiting for that to happen for many years and it didn't happen.
All right. I think we come to the end of our episode. Do you have any other consideration?
No, that was great.
Okay.
It's fantastic. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your
Thank
bye-bye.
you.
If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to follow Valgroup on social media to stay updated to the next episodes. See you then.